Hi friends, welcome back to Rouse Rising. My name is Katie and today I'm sharing with you 5 easy make-ahead breakfast meals, and there might be a bonus in there for you, so watch till the end and see what we are making today. If you struggle during the week to get breakfast going and to feed your family a nourishing meal, I encourage you to pick one day a week to meal prep all of your breakfast for the week so that you can have an easy morning and your nourishing meal is already taken care of, so you're not rushing around throwing Pop-Tarts in your mouth or feeding your kids cereal. If you make these meals ahead, it's going to make your mornings so much easier and it's going to give you the right start to your day. Before we jump into this video, I want to share with you that Nutri-Mill is having a huge sale right now, but it's only going to be for a little bit more of this week, so you want to hop over there, linked down below in this video's description, and check out the Bosch and Nutri-Mill sale. You can get a grain mill right now from Nutri-Mill for $70 off. That's stacking my coupon code ROW20, which gives you 20% off, and their current sale. So you don't want to miss out on this, especially if you've been wanting to learn how to mill your own grains and feed your family nourishing foods. It's really important to have the right appliances in your home so that you are able to feed your family the most nourishing foods. And having a grain mill in my home for the last 2 years has been really amazing. My kids no longer have bloated guts. They are able to eat grains without getting that bloat and without some of the issues that come along with eating processed grains from the grocery store. Also, when you mill grains at home, you open up your diet to a variety of nourishing grains, and you're gonna get so much variety of nutrition from those grains. So back here in my grain mill, I like to make our fresh homemade bread with hard white wheat berries, hard red wheat berries. I also like to use a variety of other grains in my grain mill. You can do that too. Check out the Nutri-Mill and Bosch sale linked down below in this video's description, and I'll also pin it in the comments. Let's dive into these delicious breakfast recipes. We all have it. Those bags of day-old, 2-day-old, 3-day-old bread that we need to use up. Maybe you don't feel like making French toast and you want something a little bit more hearty and more filling. And that's where this casserole comes into play. I'm gonna make a sausage, egg, and cheese bake, and we're gonna use up some leftover homemade bread in this recipe. And I'm going to be doubling it so that I can have a casserole for another day. So I'm going to start out with 24 eggs. I'm going to get them cracked up in this bowl, and then we're going to add some milk. So when you are making your egg casseroles, I typically err on the side of a quiche mixture, and that is 1 cup of milk per every 4 eggs. That would be the general rule of thumb for these type of egg casserole dishes. However, I'm actually going to use less milk in this recipe because I'm just using what I have. So I used up that bottle, and then I cracked into another bottle of milk that I get from Azure Standard, and we are going to mix up this egg mixture. And next thing we are going to do is slice into our day-old bread. I make my daily loaf of bread recipe in my bread machine, and it works really, really well. Some days we will use up the whole loaf within a day or two. A lot of times after we have bread one day, we won't have it for a few more days, and then I'll have this much left over. So today we are cubing it up, and we are going to put these cubes into my egg and milk mixture so that they can soak up all of that goodness. Now, I did add a little bit of salt to my mixture, but you don't really need to add a lot of salt. Your bread has salt in it, your cheese has salt in it, and your sausage is going to have salt in it as well. So this recipe will likely have enough salt in it without any additional seasoning. You can also add some pepper if you like, or whatever other seasonings or herbs that you have on hand that you enjoy, you can throw into this casserole. We're gonna try to grate up some cheese, but on this particular day, I could not find my cheese grater. I put it in a random spot. I know you guys know how that is. And it turns out that random spot was right in front of my face on top of my grain mill, but I wasn't looking there. And so after a few minutes of cutting up this cheese into tiny pieces, I look up and I see my cheese grater. So I finish off the block by grating it. So you can do whatever you can do. You can grate all your cheese, or you can cube it up into little pieces like I'm doing here. Combine all of your ingredients in the bowl. Hopefully your sausage has been cooling a bit on the burner before you add it. You don't want it to melt or cook everything immediately. So it's just been hanging out back there on the burner, waiting for me to add it to this. And then we are going to mix this up and put it in parchment paper lined casserole dishes. Why? Because that makes for easy cleanup. I have been using lots of parchment paper, and yes, it is a bit of a cost to use parchment paper with my cooking, but as a mom of 5, I like to cut corners everywhere that I can as far as in my cooking. So this eliminates some of the cleanup. I still need to clean my pans after this, but you know, they're not going to have stuck on egg or anything like that. They don't really even need to be washed, but I always rinse them out after using them and baking them because I don't want any kind of buildup on my glass pans. So these are Zwilling glass pans, casserole dishes, storage containers. They come with lids that you can vacuum seal. I will leave a link down below in this video's description to these Zwilling casserole dishes. They also have a variety of other shapes of storage containers that are all vacuum sealable, and I have the whole collection. I really like it. You can also freeze these and bake with these. It works out really well. So what I've done is I've cooked up both of these casseroles. You can also take the parchment paper out once it's completely cooled, freeze it, stick it in a Ziploc bag, and then you can reheat it in your casserole dish another day. All right, we've got some blueberries here in my stainless steel sauce pot. I'm gonna add a little bit of sugar to these and maybe some lemon juice, and we're just gonna let these simmer on our stovetop while we get our waffles going. So if you don't wanna use your standard syrup and you have some frozen fruit in your freezer, this is a great way to switch up the use of your frozen fruit, especially in colder months. You can make a fruit compote, fruit compote. And in my family, we joked around way back in the day when I lived back in Virginia. That was my holiday, one of my holiday specialties I used to make, and we jokingly called it fruit compote. This is a really easy way to also use up your bread. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna make French toast waffles. I've got my Belgium waffle maker over there. Gosh, that was a tongue twister. And I'm cracking some eggs into my pie dish. I find that shallow pie dishes are great for making your French toast. So we crack 5 eggs in there and we add a cup or so of milk. We're gonna season this with some cinnamon or some pumpkin spice. If you have some pumpkin spice, that's really nice. And we are gonna mix up this French toast. Then we are gonna stick our day-old bread slices into this mixture and pop them onto our French toaster and lay them out on a wire rack to cool so that you can freeze them. And then all you have to do is pop them in your toaster and boom, you have French toast on the fly for those busy, crazy mornings. This is looking amazing. It's starting to thicken up. I'm just gonna let it sit here and cool down. And then by the time the kids get home, they'll have these waffles. I have one more in there, and then I need to clean it. I need to get all this cleaned up, and I'm gonna make the, gosh, it's all over here, the gluten-free, dairy-free. I've gotta do some coconut oil and get out some banana or some flax to make a flax egg, but I'm gonna be using up this, and I'm gonna open up another bag of gluten-free muffin, waffle, all-in-one baking mix. I'm gonna dump all of that in there. All right, skip that. Instead of even making a flax egg, I'm just gonna add some flax to this. It's gonna be all right, y'all. It's gonna be all right. Hopefully this works out. We're gonna let it sit for a little while too. Mixed up some gluten-free waffle mix. I added some other mix in with it. On this day, this is what we had for breakfast, and I made enough waffles, both of the French toast waffles and these gluten-free waffles, so that I can freeze the extra for another day to make another easy morning. This is the next recipe that we are gonna make, chicken apple sausage patties. This is gonna be breakfast or dinner, and we are going to freeze them up. I am quadrupling the recipe. I'm multiplying the recipe by 8. I'm doing something. So we're gonna do 2 pounds of ground turkey. So we're substituting the lean ground chicken for lean ground turkey. And then I am going to do 2 full pounds. So it's gonna be a lot, but we're just gonna go ahead and do them all and freeze them. So you can screenshot this, and here's the nutrition. Always start your cooking with mise en place, and that just means all of your ingredients are measured and ready to go so that you can just toss them all together and have an easy breezy cooking experience, and you're not running around your kitchen and tripping over your children. Just ask me how I know. This recipe is just really easy. All you have to do is combine all of your ingredients, mix them up really, really well, and then I'm gonna be using a cookie scoop, like a cookie dough scoop, to scoop them out onto parchment paper lined baking sheets. And then we're going to kind of mash them down. But this recipe with turkey is very mushy, so the best way to do this is to make your little patties and put them on the parchment paper and then place them in the freezer for about 15 minutes. Don't freeze them the whole way, but get them to firm up. That way you'll be able to handle them better in your skillet. Also, one thing to note is these do have apples in the recipe, so that is going to make it a little bit sticky in your skillet. The sugars in the apples will caramelize. And so just be mindful of that so that you don't end up with a burnt outside of your sausage and an undercooked inside. Also, I wiped out my pan. I just used my cast iron skillet, ran it under some really hot water between batches, dried it, put some oil back in it, put it back on the stove. It was still hot. Let it reheat all the way back up, and then throw in my next batch of turkey sausages. Now, this may not be the case with pork or with any other type of sausage that you try to make, but definitely with turkey sausage and chicken sausage, it is very fine meat. It's very mushy, so it does need to be pre-frozen. You can omit the apples if you want to. You don't have to put those in there. You also don't have to put in the cinnamon if you aren't a fan of cinnamon apple in your sausage, so you can omit that too and use whatever sausage seasonings you like. One of the subscribers recommended to me to use poultry seasoning, and I have been using that a lot. But on this particular day when I was making this recipe, it was way before I bought poultry seasoning, so I'm using sage in this recipe, and it offers a really lovely flavor to it as well. So we're gonna get these mixed up, put on our parchment paper lined cookie sheets, slide them into the freezer for 15 minutes, and we're gonna start cooking them up. Once our sausages are cooked, we are going to place them on some paper towels to cool completely, and then place them in Ziploc bags with pieces of parchment paper in between, and we will freeze them like that so we can pull out the portions that we want to use. And we can use these in wraps, we can use these in burritos, we can use them, chop them up and put them in a breakfast casserole. However you want to use these sausage patties, put them on your biscuits, you name it. Enjoy this recipe. These are delicious. They have been one of the staples that we've kept in our house for the last couple, or at least the last year since we started this autoimmune protocol, or using more autoimmune protocol recipes in our diets, and this is one that we definitely enjoy. Have you ever made homemade granola? It is much easier than I ever thought it would be. I don't know why I found it so intimidating, but I started making it about a year ago and my family loves it. In fact, I need to make up another batch now. So this recipe is inspiring me as well. So we're gonna start out with a cup of coconut oil. We're gonna do a cup of sunflower butter. You can use peanut butter, almond butter, whatever kind of butter you have. I'm probably gonna use a combination of the sunflower butter and some almond butter since it looks like I'm running a little bit low. And I like to double, triple, quadruple batch make this recipe so that it feeds my family for a couple of weeks. As long as you keep it in an airtight container, it will last for at least a month. Likewise, you can throw it in the freezer to preserve it longer, but we typically go through it pretty quickly. And when I was eating oats, which I cannot any longer, they're a high histamine food for me, but when I was able to eat them, I was having granola on everything. I love granola. It was my snack. I had it with milk. I put it on yogurt. I used it in parfaits. You name it. It's delicious. This is my favorite granola recipe, and I wish that I could still eat it. So we're also going to add a cup of honey to this, and then we're going to add a splash of almond extract. We're also going to add first we're going to add this vanilla extract, and then we're going to add almond extract to this mixture, and we're going to pop it on the stove so that it can warm. If you like using microwaves, you can stick it all in the microwave and warm it through that way and get it all mixed up. This is going to be the coating that goes on all of our other granola ingredients. I'm also going to add some brown sugar to this. I notice when I add brown sugar to my granola, it really helps the sauce mixture, the coating, stick to the nuts that I add. So I like to add walnuts to mine, but you can add pecans or whatever kind of nuts you like to add to your granola. It sticks to the walnuts and it makes them like candied walnuts. So yummy, so delicious. I think you're really gonna love this recipe. This is one that you can make ahead, and instead of cereal, you can just pour some milk over your homemade granola, and you're avoiding all those preservatives and all of those nasty ingredients in your store-bought food. And like I said, you can batch bake this ahead and have it for the next few weeks. I'm going to link this recipe down below in this video's description. This is on my channel. If you are looking for a granola recipe, then just go up to the search bar on my channel and type in granola recipe. If ever you don't want to come back and find it in this video, then you can search lots of recipes on my channel by typing in granola or whatever the main item is in the recipe. Just type that in on my channel and it should pop up for you. And there we are. Just gonna let this cool right here on the stove, and then we will put it in the jar. So after taking this out of the oven, I just added some raisins to it, and I gave it a good mix on this tray. And now we just let it cool completely. Allowing it to cool completely will get rid of all of the greasiness, because I don't want to put this into my jar just yet. It'll condensate and it'll get mushy. So once it's completely all the way cooled off, we will add it to our jar. You want to taste it at this point, or before you even put it in the oven. See if you need any more salt, see if you need to add any more brown sugar or anything else. While it is still oily and warm like this, you can add your extra salt or sugar or whatever you want to it. And I don't feel like breaking out the brown sugar, and I thought that this needed a little bit more, so I'm just using organic cane sugar, and I'm just sprinkling some of that on top just to give it a little bit of extra sweetness for the kiddos, and a little bit of extra calories, energy in there. And then we just mix it up again, and voila! This is what I call a frittata, and basically it's just 4 eggs, 1 cup of milk, but I quadruple, I do it big. And then we throw in cheese and chopped up spinach, and we bake it at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes, or until it's cooked all the way through. Might be more, might be less. And one thing you can do with this is cut it into rectangles and wrap it up into burritos. I do this typically with my sheet pan egg bakes. pancakes that you've seen in my last couple of meal prep videos. And on this particular day, we're just gonna have this straight out of the pan. It's kind of like a crustless quiche. Sometimes I cook it in my cast iron and we call it a frittata. I'm sure I'm not getting these terms technically correct, but it is really delicious, and I encourage you to throw all of your eggs and your cheese and your veggies into a casserole dish and throw it in the oven, and then you can walk away from your kitchen and spend a few minutes of lovely morning time with your family. Also, this does freeze really well, so I'll make a big batch of these frittatas and I will let them cool completely and wrap them in parchment paper and then freeze them in the freezer for another day. So here I'm just showing you that I like to wrap my casseroles in burritos to make burritos. And then one of the last recipes I'm going to encourage you to try is a Dutch baby pancake. I made this one gluten-free and it was really delicious. We also used our fruit compote on it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today for all of these breakfast recipes. I hope you enjoyed it and that you got inspired to try something new in your home. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.